Good afternoon, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jocelyn. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I cannot wait to talk to you.
Yeah, I am so thrilled that you're here for Confidence Conversations. We have a lot of ground to cover in a lot, or just very little time, rather. But you are out here making waves, girl. Women making waves. The founder is here, Tyler Skinner, to talk to us about what it means to be a woman who is really backing and supporting other women, telling stories that matter, and helping people see their goals into fruition. So, Tyler, I want to know what got you started doing this really meaningful work.
It's so funny you asked that. There isn't an actual start. There isn't something that was so pivotal except for 2020, which I'll share a little bit about. That was more of a shift, which is everyone's talking about the shift, right? And it really was just an evolution, is really what it is. It's a process for me. It started out being, it's just me, first of all. And I think that's what people should know is first and foremost, it comes from within. So it's something that I'm kind of born with, is just naturally being a connector and just a community builder and loving people, being curious, really explorative, creative, and dynamic and out there and driven and all the things. I mean, I could just go on and on, but I mean, it just kind of goes along with my personality really, really well, of doing things big and just wanting to go bigger and dream bigger and do bigger. And just, I just didn't really know the how, I didn't always know the how to get there. So that was really my thing. Is I tried a bunch of different things. I call myself a serial entrepreneur for a reason. I've tried a bunch of different things and not all of them stuck. But as I look back, which I think we shouldn't look back always to as a way to say, oh, we're looking back and we live in our past, but looking backwards to see how far you've come, really. And I look back and I remember kind of what I've done, all the different jobs I've had and the projects I've worked on and the clients and the people I've met along the way. And I see that every little bit of it mattered. Every part of it was a building block to where I am now. So it's really fascinating to kind of look at that and say, once I got clarity in my aha moment, which happened in 2020, which I'm sure we'll dig into in the conversation, that's really what did it for me. It's like I now know my purpose. I now know my why. I know what I'm doing. And I've always been working with women for a long, long time. And I've been led by many wonderful women in my life, including my grandmother, my mother, and a lot of women that are very influential in my life. And I think that was a key component to this women making waves concept.
Yeah. And it's true, when we are allowed to make waves, usually there's women who have done so before us that are really creating this pathway for us to be able to be successful and do the things that we're doing. So just because you're doing your business on your own, you've actually been supported by so many others. So in another sense, it's like you're not really alone. 2020 was a game changer for just about anyone, especially for those who are self-employed, and especially those who, like you, are serial entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
because you really are your own backbone, and you have to have a system that's reliable in order to sustain. We can do our annual budgets, and then, like coronavirus, there's an act of God that just kind of shakes the whole world up. So I want to
Totally.
know your 2020 story and just how you were able to pivot out of that into something that's so meaningful and just a success.
Yeah, so I built up my company Connected Communities, which is the umbrella company that kind of houses women making waves. And I started that in 2018 after working a lot in the consulting space with nonprofits and servant leadership, and also doing event management a little bit, donor relations, sponsors. I mean, that was kind of my background. And then also doing community outreach and projects with my husband. He and I have a consulting business for land use consulting. And so my portion of that was always the community building aspect. And when I was in that capacity, I really didn't feel it. I really wasn't feeling like I was utilizing my full talents and
Mhm.
skills. And even though I literally delivered for the clients, I didn't feel very compelled. I didn't feel
Right.
pushed. I didn't feel anything, like it wasn't resonating with me very much. So in 2018, building up that company and saying, I'm going to branch out and do this thing on my own. And I'm going to start connecting businesses and people and organizations the only way I know how, which is, you know, personal connections and those kind of things, but also just being available to people to strategize and talk through creative solutions for their business. So that was awesome. Going up, up, up. And then 2020.
Yeah. And it's
And
hard.
that's not a unique story. I know a lot of people were either they've already built up a business, they're super successful, all this stuff's happening, and then boom, crash. So that's kind of my story. And then 2020, to go on that, I think, I don't know how much we want to dig in, but definitely I want to share, because I think people should know that 2020 was I did the freak out. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was a grieving process, as if there was a death. That's how I felt about it. And I went through like fits of screaming, crying. I mean, I cried to my family, friends, and I was just so upset. My husband was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do with you?" And I was just feeling bad. I felt down and I felt kicked. You know, I felt kind of like knocked down. And I just got back up and said, you know what? I finally stopped after I had to let that all out. I had to process that. And I stopped and looked around and said, what do I do well? Who am I? And what do I do well? And that's why I really, really advocate for and really go for the whole idea of go innate, like look within ourselves, because we have all the answers inside us. That's the crazy part. And a lot of people don't believe me, but I can say that with total certainty and total conviction that we know we just don't know the how. Like I said before, we know the why, we know what's in us. Like, what can I do? Who am I? What I really want to do? Then you find the people and the processes and the things, the resources to help you get there. And so 2020, I went through all the webinars. I was doing all the things everyone was doing in like the event space, trying to figure out the shift and what's going to happen and what's going on and the regulations and everything else. And kind of watching with bated breath. And I thought, this is not me. I don't do that. I don't kick back and watch and wait and have someone tell me how it's done. I go do it. I'm that girl. That's who I am. And I'm like, I kind of want to go create it. If it's not existing, let's create it. Or if it is existing, who's out there we can collaborate with? That is my way. And so that's exactly what I did. And I started to say, I was working with a client that had the Women Making Waves idea, and they started this this concept, but it was very local to our area. And I thought, you know, this is way bigger than this area, and it's way bigger than me and you and the whole thing. So I said, we need to just do something differently. And she said, I don't have the bandwidth. You should take it. And I'm like, I'm taking it. I'm running with it. So that's what I did. And I trademarked the name, and I looked around, did all the research, and started doing all the things you do as an entrepreneur, you know, that kind of stuff. But I also found, you know, just women out there wanting to tell their stories and wanting to share and wanting to connect by industry. And then I realized that's the key. Like, it's by industry, supporting and uplifting them. And that's what we've been doing. We shifted to online platform and started doing it so we could reach a wider audience and get different speakers and meet women like you who are all the way across the US. No, I'm serious. And that's my blessing. That's my silver lining. It's like meeting women like you who don't live in my area, who don't live next door to me. And I would never really, maybe I never would have met you had 2020 not happened. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll share more as we go along, but that's the big one.
And I love that you were able to just take that time and understand your purpose and your passion and really come to terms with what it is that you enjoy doing and get back to a place rather of self-realization and then self-actualization, right? When life hits us, we oftentimes get swept off of our feet. We go with the wave. As you can see, I'm very corny, right? I'm going to keep making plays on the wave concept, but we go and we just kind of go with the wave because that's what's happening. Life is taking us somewhere, when we can also pave our own way. If we look around us, okay, observe what's happening, see the surroundings. So let's get in touch with reality, sure. But let's also get in touch with the reality that's inside of ourselves. What is it that brings me purpose? What is my passion? And how can I do that and make a living off of that? And so it's really nice that you were able to take such a downturn. 2020 for a lot of people was a hard time, and not only share that story, but make something of that story. The other piece, which I know that you know that I am obsessed with, is really breaking out of this space of suffering in silence. Because I think a lot of people do it, whether it's, you know, entrepreneurs suffering in silence because they feel that they have to have this air of perfection, because if I don't, how will I get clients or what have you? Or it's women thinking that they have to compete with each other rather than come to a space like yours, right? Where we can have meaningful conversations and build each other up. Like, the next woman is not your competition. She can be your ally. She can be your community, not your competition if you allow it. So I want to hear now about how you make the connection between women who could be competing in a sense, right? You have people who you did start locally, they could have competing businesses, but taking a place where we're naturally inclined to want to one up each other and turn that into a community where we're able to build each other up.
Yeah, and I think a lot, that's a great question. I think a lot of the thing that comes from women naturally being inclined to do that is that we're living in a world that's constructed not for us or not by us. And I think
Mhm.
that's also part of it. I think that we aren't really taught at a very young age. And I kind of say this jokingly, but sort of like how to play on the playground with
Yeah,
each other. I mean, we're not really taught that. We have to figure it out for ourselves. And sometimes that doesn't look, we're trying to maybe do it a different way or kind of emulate something else that's really not natural to us and doesn't feel natural to us. And so that's what I'm really here for with women, is saying, if I see you and you have these, like you were saying, competitive and maybe industries, that what I'm seeing is more and more women really want to, especially now after 2020, really want to learn about other women in their industry and be like, how can we help each other? Because we're stronger in numbers. And if we have different things, all of us do. So whether you're a coach or you're a financial advisor or you're this or that, or you're CEO of a company, whatever you're doing, you have something unique to offer because you're you. There's
right.
not anything else that someone could do like you. I posted this quote recently and it says, they can have your recipe, but the sauce won't taste the same.
Yeah.
That is the reality. I mean, someone could do the same exact thing you do, like Women Making Waves. It's not, I didn't reinvent the wheel. There are other women's empowerment platforms. There are other women's groups out there that serve various groups of women specifically. And they're all valid. They're all amazing. And they're all doing something. They've built their own community around what they're doing. I'm just here to tell stories and inspiring dialogue from women across these industries. I'm doing like industry focus, which is my own way. And this is what I love. So it's really just me. It's coming from my heart. It's coming from my soul. It's like what I want. And the other thing I'll touch on with that, with the competitiveness, is I remember having an art business. I actually was an art rep for a long time in Southern California and had a full studio. We used to sell to designers and all this stuff. And I remember working with a lot of really talented, amazing artists. And I would try to put on group shows. That was always my way. That's what I'm saying about, I'm always collaborating. Like, look, you
Yeah.
all have different talents. We could do it. Their ego was so big that they would go, no, I paint this and this. I'm not going to show with this person. And I would say, that's your mistake right there, because your collector base will want to buy maybe their stuff, but their collector base might want to buy your stuff. And so you need to see that there's also opportunity for you in this as well. So it's an even exchange that we bring up, we make it bigger, we make it better. So there's more people that are coming to the table than just your maybe 50 people in your collector base. We could have hundreds at this event that could see your
Exactly.
stuff. You're amplifying your message, you're amplifying your brand, you're amplifying your story. And I think that that's what people aren't really always looking at, is they're saying it's micro, it's just me, it's just my little community. No, it's way bigger than that.
Yeah, it's the world if you allow it. Like, too often we close ourselves off from opportunities that can come our way, either from fear of losing or someone else being better. But there's also that other half of the what if, that's like, what if this is a really great opportunity and I just shut it down before I even knew about it? So really opening ourselves up to just the spirit of collaboration, but also to the possibility that the world has to offer, and just knowing that, you know, one of the things that I always say is, when someone else does better, it doesn't take away from your ability to succeed. It actually creates more opportunity, especially if that person is a natural giver, because they're going to go and continue to give out there in the community.
Yeah.
And so they're going to generate more opportunities. They're going to generate more people who have, now that the opportunity's been presented, they have a little money in their pockets, they can purchase from you. And it's just this whole ecosystem of give and take if we allow for things to flow how they naturally should.
Right. And it's funny because whether or not however you feel about Melinda Gates, that's not the point. There's a quote that we posted on Women Making Waves. It was one of our first posts. And I love the quote and what it says, which is, investing in women is investing in those who invest in everyone else.
Mm.
That's how I feel. And I think that that's really true. I think that as women, we often, and not every woman, but I mean, generally speaking, we often think about our community. We think about our families. We think about the larger picture of like who's around us. Can we affect? Can we help change? Can we help them? Can we support them? And I think that that's something we kind of have in us naturally. And
Mhm.
so why not work with that? Go with that feeling and open yourself up. Like you said, open yourself up to the possibility and don't close yourself off to the fact that you might have that inside you. If you are a natural giver, find the way you can give in a way that feels good to you. But obviously we need boundaries. We need all these things, which is why Women Making Waves exists in my mind, is to help you I basically look at it like I built the stage. You can dance to your own tune however you want to in the stage. Like I'll help you find leadership opportunities and programs. We'll work on, we're going to let you interview, let you guest blog, all these things that you can have an opportunity to share your voice and your story and also help other women along the way. That's what's really important to us.
Yeah. And you talked about dancing to your own music. You provide the stage, but you're able to dance to your own music. I want to hear about how you've done that in your own life.
Dancing to my own music.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a good question. I think now it's what I did is I shed a lot of the feelings of business. So I am actually consider myself a creative entrepreneur. I really do not. Someone called me an alchemist. That was what was so fascinating the other day. And I went, what does that mean? That was like one of the first books I
Yeah,
ever
that's
read by,
awesome.
yeah, they're like, you're like an alchemist. You like put all the little ingredients together and mix it all up and everything like comes out magical. Like it's just your way, bringing the right people, the mix, the ambiance, the flow. And I'm like, that's really nice. That was something I'd never really heard before, but I love it. I'm going to go with it. But I think for me, I am just a person that likes to kind of march to the beat of my own drum. And I do like to create things. So I'm always looking for opportunities to do that. And I think in business, sometimes we're shunned for doing that. It's like, well, that's not the way. Well, you don't have this in place. You don't have all the boxes checked. Like you pointed out earlier, what was it? You said something about the financials, all the like balance sheet, and you didn't build a business plan. So therefore it's not the right way. And I ask people, I challenge people and I say, well, who made that up? Like who said that
Yeah,
was
and
the
it's
only
also like
way?
building the business plan. I can tell you about that because that's the world that I used to live in, right? I was business strategy and operations. And it's why I'm not averse to it. I think you need to be prepared. You do need to have a plan. But at the same time, there's never going to be this right moment. And there is a space for the creative soul. And I had gotten so accustomed to operating like in this business mind. And I had taken science courses my whole college career and got a master's in like a public health space. So I was used to thinking in that way. And so we think that there's no space for creativity and things have to be this way. But when you take a step back, it's the creatives that really get the magic happening because they're letting things ebb and flow, and you're able to feed off of what's happening and occurring naturally, which is really what you want to be able to do. If something goes wrong in your little scientific formula, you're screwed. But it's the creative that's able to come in and create something that's different but still beautiful, maybe even more beautiful
Yeah.
than what you would have had if you'd stuck to the grain and to the plan. So I want to hear about how you're helping women change their lives, and give me a story about some
Oh.
of the women that you work with, because I know that you're really making a difference for people on an everyday basis.
And I'm going to it's funny because I don't have, and this is what I don't believe in either prescribed to, is I don't have a story in the sense of, it has to be something the way everyone else's terms, what that looks like. I think believing in affecting one person
Mm-hmm.
is huge. And the feedback and testimonials we get all the time are that. One of the things I want to say about our community is that's really important to us values wise is having people welcomed in and come into an invitational space. It's like, come into the space. You might be wanting something, you're yearning for something. When you get here, you're like, this is what I needed. Oh my gosh, I did not realize.
Yeah.
And that's what I would love for people to feel. And so having some of those testimonials come back, we've seen things like people giving their first pitches ever at one of our events where they're like, I'm going to use my voice for the first time. Like I've had this idea for years and I've worked on this and this and this. Or people saying, I was able with the guidance of this program or what you were doing with these events, connecting with women who believe in me, actually are helping me move forward on this. We actually now have, they're mentoring me or they're giving me this contact, or it's just getting them on their projects, on their track, finding their why. And I hear it over and over and over again. But my biggest ones are women. One woman said to me that stands out super in my mind because I'm a mom. So I have a very soft spot for that. We were on an adventure because we do these brunch retreats and we do adventures. And we went kayaking, which is a lot of the women had never been kayaking, and it's in our backyard. Like it's literally 10 minutes away and they don't go kayaking for themselves. And so one woman brought her daughter and she said, I guess they were having a rough relationship, like something was going on with them, but we all didn't know that, of course. Mm-hmm. And she went out kayaking. They didn't get lost. They just took their time and they didn't make it back to the brunch. And we're like, where is that person? Where did they go? And I was so worried. I was telling the place, like, please let them know. Well, she shows up like an hour later with her daughter and they're like in tears. You can tell they've been crying. And I talked to her later and she said, I'll probably tear up when I'm saying the story. But she said to me, she's like, you gave me the opportunity to like have that time with my daughter, to like connect with her in a way. I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I don't think we ever have gotten that space to do that, floating out on the water where no one was around us to interrupt or intervene. And I don't know if we would have done that had we not gone on this adventure and done this and seen what we were capable of accomplishing. And so she shared that with me and I just died. I was like, oh my gosh, because that's so important, having her recognize herself as a mom and what she can offer, and then clearing the air and getting that reconnection with her daughter was valuable, huge for her. So those are the kind of stories that move me, obviously, to the core. And just, there's so many others. And I'm like, that's my fuel. Like the more I get those, the more I want to go.
And it's so nice because that's how you found your calling, right? When the work that you're doing no longer feels like work. Like, sure, there's stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis that you can't get out of, but the end result of each retreat, each event that you throw is what's fueling you back up, and it's invigorating you to do more and more every day. That's how like I've landed on something good here that's meaningful for me. The other thing that I love and I believe in so wholeheartedly is we need to create the space for ourselves to find what we need. It may not necessarily be what we want, but when we open ourselves up and just go do things, like sometimes we're so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we wouldn't do something like go to a retreat, go out for brunch with a group of women that we don't know. And you never know what opportunity is in that moment. And it's usually so far from what you think you're getting. Oh, a time on the water and a breakfast. It's like, oh, no, you came here for so much more. You came here to fuel your fire. And I just love to hear stories like that of people doing that kind of work every day. I want to take a step back and talk about something that I love to talk about, which is confidence.
Yes. I was going to say, when are we bringing up confidence? Because I was about to just go off on that with you.
So what does confidence mean to you?
I think confidence, again, I'm going to go back to it comes from within. I think that it really is something that you build on. It's not like we are inherently born with it in a certain degree. If we look back at our childhood, right? Mm-hmm. I look at my two daughters and I say, wow, I mean, I hope you never lose that. They're already like, Mom, I have my own way. I say my own things, but it's how we raise them. It's how we talk to them. It's how we speak to them. But there's also this kind of innate knowing that we've got this in some ways, if we're allowed that space to explore that and get to know that about ourselves. But at some point along the way, and we all know this, we've been like told to stop or told to do this or told that. And I think for people, it's diminishing it can be diminishing their confidence. I've shared this with you before, and I'd love to share it here now, is that, you know, I was in a relationship that was not super supportive and awesome and very manipulative and difficult. And I'm not blaming that person by any means, because I had my part in it, obviously, and allowed myself to partake and kind of go there. But my confidence was diminished. And I think that we give away our power and our light and our confidence to other people sometimes when we're looking for external to fill us up. And so internal is what you're saying. When you say fill yourself up so you can do good, fill yourself up, it's find what works for you. For me, confidence is, you know, taking that time, the space for myself to relax, you know, to think. It's playing with my kids, it's going to see my friends, and having that balance of being around all these different people that I love, and then filling myself up my own way. Dancing. I mean, I dance before meetings. So I'm just saying, it just helps me feel good in my body and feel good in where, and take up space and feel good where I'm at, and kind of like, and hear myself speak. I think I've recorded myself and just watched it back just to see how I am, and just like get to know myself, stare at myself in the mirror. I know that sounds really silly, but just doing that is really amazing, just to get to know my face and know myself and say like, yeah, that's like awesome. You look awesome today. You look great. And like, good speak, you know, talking to ourselves kindly, giving ourselves grace. Those are all the things that I exude with confidence. And, you know, I have it on my, what's it called? The vision board. I'm all
Yeah.
about that. Like seeing the quotes everywhere. I've got little pieces of quotes. And so this is my favorite, if you don't mind if I share, for
Please.
confidence related. It says, let people see the real, imperfect, flawed, quirky, weird, beautiful, magical person that you are. Because that's what I just believe. I'm all those things. And
Right.
I just feel like, okay, like bring it. Like that, I'm all those things. We have to embrace it though, and really own it. Just own those sides of ourselves and be like, okay, I'm those things, but I'm also this. I'm that thing, but, and we bring it out in different times of the day, in different ways. So I'm just,
Mhm.
I love what you do, Jocelyn. By the way, I have to say this before we like segue into anything else, because you reaching out meant the world to me. And then you said something to me that really resonated so deeply. This is again what you do so well with creating confidence, is you said, okay, but women like you need to also share their story. Like, you're
Yeah.
helping all these other women share their stories and do all this stuff, but what about you? Like, what are you doing? And so I felt like, yeah, that's true. I don't know why I'm not doing that. And so anyway, I just appreciate that so much, that you recognized that, you saw what we were doing, it resonated with you, and you reached out, and you're doing this because all your quotes, I see your posts every day, your quotes, it's like, I needed this today, you know,
Thank
and we all do. So thank you for helping that. It's all those little things that help us create confidence daily. No,
you.
well, there you go. I'm being corny now.
Cultivating confidence daily. I love
I'm like,
it.
now I'm being corny.
Oh, it's so good. I'm usually the only one. I'm such a cornball. But I love what you said about kind of connecting the physical to your mental in terms of confidence, because sometimes life is coming at us hard. We're in, less than perfect relationships or even abusive relationships. We're in a hard work environment, or maybe our kids are acting up, whatever it is that you're going through. And it can be hard to feel that on an internal level. But there are things that you can do physically to really turn that around for yourself, because it's all psychological. One of the things, and I don't have a pen here, so I won't make myself look completely silly, but I put a pen in my mouth and I'll go like this.
I
And
love that.
the reason why is because even if you don't feel like smiling, the anatomy of doing something that mimics smiling, like putting the pen in your mouth, it like makes you feel happy. And then you can go into that meeting with confidence, or like you said, starting off with a dance.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you're not feeling good, or just are having trouble even getting out of bed in the morning? Like, I've been there too. What are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that you can do to get back to a space of being comfortable and confident one day at a time?
Those kind of moments when because we all have them, we know we do. And if you don't, come on. I mean, I know you do. We all have those days. And if I don't feel like getting out of bed, I really honor that. I've learned to honor that. And I'm still on that journey. I have days where I'm like, just get up and do it, like trying to push myself. But again, it's force, not flow. And like you recognized earlier that you can't force things. And I look at nature again as like a good example. I had a woman reach out to me and talk to me about how a flower doesn't unfold faster I mean, that's natural. It does it what it's supposed to do in its own time. So I allow myself to rest. I mean, I sit there and say, my body, what am I feeling today? I really take a minute to just check in with myself. And I might take a few breaths, or I might like get up and see, I feel like, let me go slower today. Let me like get my coffee, or I might just get some tea instead. Like, what am I really feeling like? And like tapping into that and honoring that, not just like forcing myself to go work out because I'm supposed to,
Yeah.
or go like, go call that person. Maybe I'm like, can we change our call? Like, I've done that some days. I'm like, hey, can we move it back a little bit? I need like a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
And that's okay to ask for those things and just say, or can we reschedule the next week? Something came up. If you're just not feeling it that day, or don't post things on social media or engage if that's just not what you want to do that day, even though that's what your marketing people tell you to do. It's the 3 days and it's this time. You got to listen to yourself and know what you want and honor that and be okay with that. And I think that the practice of that, little bits every day, will really help you get there.
Yeah. And I also think, to your point, though, rest,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, is
Pause.
a huge just sign of confidence, even
Mm-hmm.
because when you're go, 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 especially when you don't feel like it, there's a part of you that thinks that if I don't go, if I don't do that in this moment, my dreams are never going to happen and I'm going to fail and I'm never going to lose the weight and whatever else is going to happen. And when you're able to allow yourself to rest, you're actually making this manifestation that I am confident that my dreams will come to pass and I don't have to force it to happen. Like you said, my dreams are like that flower. It's just going to happen. It's going
Yeah.
to it's going to blossom when it's supposed to. I will shed the pounds or whatever the heck it is that you're working really hard for. You can exist in flow,
Mm-hmm.
and going with the flow is a part of being confident, because usually we think that we have to show up and we have to be the loudest one in the room and we have to be seen and we have to be heard, and it's like, if you're able to just be comfortable in your own skin, and maybe you're off on a corner someday, that sometimes that's the most confident thing you can do.
That's
And
right. That's
yeah.
right. And you take a break. I've taken a break from my kids and been like, mom needs a few minutes. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to go for a walk and I'll be right back. I'm just saying. And I know that they want to play with me and they're just like, mom, I haven't seen you. And I'm just like, I just need like 10 minutes and I'll go for a walk and I'll just clear my head and I'll come back. And then you're available, you're present, you're there. And I'm not trying to pontificate or anything. I'm not saying I do this all the time, but I definitely try to get those reminders and those things in every day. And then I look to, I mean, a lot of my friends, I look around at people that are doing things I like, that I appreciate. Like, what are you doing? I ask people for help. Like, how do you block out time for this? How do you, like, what's your secret? What's your method? And then you learn and you can pick and choose what works for you based on some other people's experiences. Because again, going back to storytelling, that's why we got to tell each other what we do. And it helps us. It's like giving us another little tip, little life hack.
And be able to ask. I think so often we get caught up in our own heads thinking that Instagram and Facebook or what's real, or even if you see people in real life, right? You see them at a party and they look so fabulous and oh, they must be perfect. No one's perfect. And so let's humanize the human experience by being able to ask questions. What are you doing? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And knowing that everyone is just human. I think it brings so much joy and it lifts such a weight off of you where you can really feel like I am enough in the moment. And
Yeah.
speaking of being enough, you've really gone from you've had this amazing career. You've done a lot of things, but I know for a lot of women, becoming a mom, especially as an entrepreneur, is a really huge shift just in the way that you operate and even just in how you see yourself. And so I'm very interested to know how you have maintained a sense of self-worth and confidence throughout your journey as a mother.
Oh, as a mother, that's a great one. I made a lot of mistakes. That's the reality of it. We all do. And there is no manual, like they say. That's the joke amongst, moms and families and parents, is like there just isn't. And you can get advice from your parents, and you draw from your childhood and your own experiences, and you kind of go, do I want to do it differently? Do I want to do it the same? And you can read all the books you want to read, but I'll tell you, it really, again, goes back to, what do you know? You know your kids, like they came from your body. That's me as a mom. I birthed these children. So I'm like, I know my children. And I'm not saying everyone gets the opportunity to do that. So I want to be clear on that. Not everybody gets the chance to do that. So I feel super fortunate that I was able to do that. Some people have to adopt, some people can't have children. So and they want them. And that's my thing, is there's so many people that want them. So my thing with that as a mom is just taking the time to reaffirm and allow them. They've become my guides. So my 2020 shift from business was the one thing I shared. Motherhood was allowing them to be my guides. And I'm just there to facilitate and guide their journey, but they're like teaching me. They're really just, I'm letting them be and let them explore to a certain extent. Obviously, I want them to be safe. I want them to understand, but I explain things to them about the world and what's going on. They're not adults, so I don't give them everything. I filter, but I'm also like, okay, you do that. That's okay. We can stay up 5 more minutes if that's really what you want to do. And that's okay. We don't have to have the hard stop bedtime and the routine all the time. Like, let's play a little bit more. That's okay. Read another book. And if that's what you really want, and looking at what's reasonable and what's not, because sometimes you're like, I want candy at 10 p.m. You're like, well, is that really a good choice? So it's just those kind of things of asking them questions. And trust me, shockingly, they actually know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't give kids enough credit. They know a ton. My daughter, my 5-year-old the other day said, Mom, that's sick. And I was like, sick? I go, what do you mean it was sick? And I go, is someone ill? Is something going on? She goes, no, sick like awesome.
You're like, right on, girl.
I'm all, wow. And just proof, Jocelyn, that we affect our children so much that with our actions. The proof for me is that my little one will come to me and go, you make waves, but I make love for the world. And she's like, I'm going to create a spa one day. It's called the Wave Spa, and it's going to be only for moms.
I love, that's the most amazing thing in the
My
world.
5-year-old said that to me the other day. Yeah.
And it really goes to show too, like, you are an example, whether you think that you are or not, to your children, to the people around you, and really to just to your micro universe that is you. And so the people around you, especially your kids, are a reflection of the light and the energy that you're putting out. And so for her to say that is just such a huge and awesome affirmation for you. We talked about affirmations a little bit earlier. We just kind of touched the surface, but I want to know if there are any affirmations that you start your day with, or any that you're super into as of right now.
It's not really well, actually, I have like that. I think it's Hoda's book. It's like, I needed this today. I read that every day. It's like little quotes. But I also, what's really awesome, one of the gals there's 2 more things. One of the gals on our team, her mother, they're from Brooklyn, New York. Her mother actually sends over 80 people now, because it's grown that big. She sends us quotes every morning. So I get like a 4 a.m. ding, and it's a quote. And she sends a quote in the morning with like, namaste. And it's something amazing. Like, you were made this way. You're so beautiful. Like, she gives a whole thing. And she sends some quote that she found on the internet or something amazing. And I love getting that every morning. I asked to be added to the list. I don't even know the woman that well. I'm just like, hey, I want to be on your mom's list. And so she sends it out. We're just all part of the family now. She created her own community of people that just want to hear her affirmations every day and receive them in text. So the first thing I get when I wake up in the morning is that, and I always read it. Then I use an app called the Daily Shine. I absolutely love it. It's created by 2 women that are just phenomenal. And I hope, like, if you're all hearing this, I want to collaborate with you someday. Like, I'm so excited about their platform and their app. And they give you like 5-10 minutes a day of just for free. So they have a membership you can also get into, but they do like 5-10 minutes of just daily things. And every day, I swear, it's meant for me. Every day it's like, take a pause, micro breaks. Tyler, what are you doing for your community today? Tyler, how are you feeling? It's like really amazing. So I just love that. They're guided meditations, and I sit there for 5 minutes in bed or sit up, and I just do that. And it helps me a ton.
So right now you're helping women make waves. And I know that all of the women who are listening on this podcast are getting a lot out of what you're saying, but I know that there are some who, like you, are looking to start their first business. And I want to know what advice you have for them, especially if they're feeling like they've hit kind of a roadblock.
So in starting, you mean like hitting a roadblock and starting? That's the hardest part. I have a friend, Jacqueline Wales, who told me recently, she does a fearlessness. She's written a book on it. And I said, what is fearlessness? And she goes, it's not the absence of fear. That's what people misconceive. It's actually it's taking that step, even though
Mm,
you are scared. And so
yeah.
I think that would be my main advice is if you're hitting a block, always the nicest thing, and if it's women, I'm going to talk about women specific. If it's women, do it with a friend. Like find somebody to be your beta, grab a bunch of your girlfriends or friends to come in, and if it's pitching something, pitch it to them. If it's an elevator, like share your stuff with them, your website that you're designing, get some advice and some feedback from people you trust and you love and know, and just say, hey, any feedback? How can I improve this? What do you think? And keep going and keep doing that. And I think consistency was another one we talked about recently on Clubhouse with like community building, for example. It's like keep going and be consistent. Even if you have 2 people show up to your event, keep going. And that's what my advice would be, is keep going, take that step, and then find those people in your corner that'll be your front row that are just going to be there along the way on the journey to be like, okay, you got this, or I have a friend that can help you with this, and do it with them. Start a podcast with them, and say, hey, could you just jump on and we do this together and figure it out? And that's really the awesome way to do it if you're feeling like you're alone, and that you're not.
Yeah. And it's really important to have that sense of community, like you said, and that's what Women Making Waves is all about. So how can people find you and your organization? Are you on Instagram, websites? Give us all the details.
Yes, we are on Instagram at women.making.waves. So you can find us there. And we also are on Facebook. And then we also have our website, which is women-making-waves.com. And right now we have, it's a landing page at this point, because I'm like most people, I'm just being honest, I'm developing the site as we speak. So I'm in that mode, because I built up the community and did all the events, and I'm working through all those things. And now I feel like we're at a point where we need to bring members in and create this community and go bigger. So we're doing that right now. So thank you so much for allowing us that space to share that, because I really want to see as many women as we can, and there are millions and millions of women